Hello, Karen. I am so excited to see you today for this very exciting episode where we have a super special guest. I all thanks to you. So thank you for bringing this special person on. I'll let you take it away.
Oh my gosh. It feels like full circle. Katie, always wonderful to see you. And it feels like full circle only because I think, Johanna, I feel like I've mentioned you like at least 3 times on this podcast.
At least. Yes.
At least. And like the most recent time I messaged you and I was like, at minute whatever, I like just lose my mind about how amazing you are. I just wanted to let you know. Oh, by the way, Katie and I would love to have you on. And when you said yes, I was like, oh, Johanna said you come on the podcast.
Yes, I mean,
Flattery,
Johanna,
flattery will get you everywhere.
you
No, I'm
you
so
def
thrilled. I listened to the entire podcast episode. It was great.
Oh,
Thank
thank
you.
you. You're like almost to Beyonce and Michelle Obama status of like how often we
Oh.
mention you. It's not far away. Not far away. So welcome, Johanna.
Oh,
Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me.
oh my God, that's so I'm gonna be laughing about the Beyonce. Okay, so um because we are not going to do an intro beforehand this time, will you please introduce yourself? And like I said, as much or as little detail as you like, but
Yes.
listeners are familiar with you.
Yes, of course. So I've spent my career in media and but I have this whole kind of side gig of coaching and like yoga and just like all the out there stuff. And I've always been on the revenue side of media organizations. It's a pressure cooker of an environment. It's an industry that's in existential crisis. And so for me, I really found a lot of perspective. Several years ago, I did a self-care class in 2015. And that kind of started my journey on, I guess I would call it perspective building, right? There's like the busyness of your day, there's the busyness of your life. I have 2 kids, I have 2 dogs, but what provides me perspective? Because none of that needs to dictate who I am every day. So I would say that's kind of now I have my own consulting gig. I still work with media companies, but I also do leadership coaching, and I don't teach yoga, but I do a lot of yoga, and I think that I try to incorporate in my consulting perspective and perspective bearing exercises because I think it's useful no matter who you are and what you're doing.
And I will say, you and I were former colleagues, and
Yes.
it's so funny. Okay, so it's so funny when we met, quote unquote, met, right, on Zoom. We were having Zoom issues, and it was like another colleague and I, Vanessa, who I've also mentioned on this podcast, and I were doing this like onboarding kind of rounds together for 2 weeks.
Yep.
And we met with you, and you said something about being old, and I was like, oh, honey, I'm sure I'm older than you. And it's how we discovered that you and I were the oldest staffers
Yes.
Oh
at
my
the time.
gosh.
Yeah, literally, like oldest, and then she's 3 months younger.
Yes. It's kind of amazing. And it was so fun to have a buddy in the Gen X crowd. Like it's all millennials and Gen Z. And it was like, I see you.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. And Vanessa, I forget. I'm trying to remember. It was just I mentioned Vanessa too because like the other thing is that like given your background, right? You're like so grounded in the money side of it, but then you're also this like luminous yoga creature. And so it's just like always on Zoom like, oh, okay, everything's fine. It's all going to be fine.
It's all going to be fine.
I mean, this is so amazing. I so appreciate you two bringing your relationship into the podcast so that we can all benefit. And honestly, Johanna, I have to say what you said at the top when you were introducing yourself about how you have 2 kids and 2 dogs, but you help people not only be defined by those things, like that is a mic drop. I think so many of us are tied up in like the minutia of day to day. It's like, we're parents or caregivers, or we are dealing
Mhm.
with something that is in our bodies or in someone else's bodies, or like, just like the existential kind of, swirling of it all. I mean, we're recording this on September 11th. which is
Yeah.
its own day. And then also it's the day after the presidential debate, which many of you, I'm still wearing my Kamala t-shirt. Yes, I wore it last night. Yes, I slept in it. And yes, I'm wearing it right now. I'm never taking it off. And so that I just so appreciate the perspective that you're identifying it. I mean, right away about like, we're not just those people.
I think I think about balance a lot. And my mom said to me, I mean, so many years ago, that balance isn't something that's found in an hour or a day or a week or a year. It's over a lifetime. And I think that there are times in our lives where we're sucked into the vortex, understandably, right? And but there are always moments of perspective and things change. There's always opportunity for perspective. And sometimes, I mean, look, I'm on a journey. Like I'm no expert at any of this. I fight it every day, right? But there I think with space, like I couldn't create as much space when my kids were really young, right? Like now I have more space to for myself and for that perspective. But I do think that space can happen when you're sitting at a red light.
Mm.
Space can happen when, you know, you're waiting at the vet for your dog to come out, whatever it is, right? Like there is, but you have to prioritize it, and that's a practice that doesn't happen overnight, right? Like I feel that I've been on this journey of kind of more awareness for 9 years, and I'm still shitty at it sometimes. Like, you know, if it's, and it's busyness is what steals away space, which steals away grace and perspective. Busyness is really hard, and it's like, I mean, it's part of life, right? Like that's what molds us. And it's about, you don't want to remove yourself from everything in the world so that you can be the Zen master. What fun is that? But at the same time, you know, you have to uh, create space in order to choose how you want to live your life.
All right. So my question for you, because I feel like Katie and I are both like, you're so right. Oh my God.
I'm really bad at this a lot of times. Like, I'm not saying this as someone who has like mastered this at all. I just want to be clear that I struggle with this myself.
But to even identify it and to be able to put words to it is huge. Right. And so, okay, you say you're still on this journey. Fine. I guess I believe you.
Yeah.
Okay, what are some things that you do? Because
Mm.
that is resonating so much for me right now. I had therapy this morning, and that is what we talked about. Like, I feel so squished that I cannot
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting at a red light, and I don't even know what I'm doing at a red light right now.
No, you're lost in thought. And I definitely get like that too, right? When you feel squished. I mean, so okay, so I think for one, like exploring, what does squished feel like? What does it feel like in your body? You know, that is, to me, building the awareness. And again, this is a practice. This happens over a lifetime of when you feel something in your body. For me, when I feel squished, I can feel restless. Right now, I feel restless. It's fall. You know, it's just look at the squirrels, right? Like the squirrels are running around. They're like, you know, unburying, like it drives my dogs crazy. They're out on the deck, they're running which way, they're like digging, getting the acorns, and they're putting them somewhere else, and then they're getting another acorn and they're running around. And that is how I feel in my body right now. Like that is how I feel. I think nature is, this is the time of harvesting. This is like, you know, who we are deeply. And so for me, I know that there's a restlessness in my body. So what happens to me, I can feel it. I can't sit still. I start doing one thing and I end up doing three other things. And so the intentionality of my, you know, my purpose feels a little lost. I feel critical of myself. Like I feel a deep criticizing of myself, like, oh, I'm not doing this, or I'm not, like, there are things that and it just feels like there's a pulsing deep in my body. I know when there's a pulsing deep in my body, there are a couple things I do for me, right? One is I love to journal. I feel I don't always do it, but it's not like I wake up every morning and I journal every morning. I know that would probably make me feel better, but it's not how I prioritize my time every day. But when I feel that way, and what I found is that journaling allows me to bring back purpose. What do I want to accomplish? It slows me down, right? Because the restlessness is busyness. I'm filling my day with busyness, and some things are not a priority, but they seem like a priority. Oh my God, I have to clean out my kitchen cupboards. How could I not do my kitchen cupboards? Like, it's ridiculous, right? And it's like, well, actually, is that really a huge priority right now? But it feels like a huge priority. So for me, like, and it depends on what I'm feeling in my body. Sometimes I feel really sad, right? Like I just feel heavy, and um, music can be good for hiking, going out and just nature, like slow walking, petting my dog, I play games with my son, like we play Yahtzee, like, so I feel like depending on what I'm feeling in my body, there is a grounding space creating solution. But so the practice is when you feel squished, when you feel restless, when you feel it's like starting to open up the highway between your mind and your body. A lot of times we don't pay attention to what's happening in our bodies, and it's wisdom.
Ooh. Oh my gosh. I'm so glad you're here. Like this is so helpful. Okay, there are 1,000 things that I can follow up with what you just said, but I think one of them I would love to really talk about is prioritization,
Oh
because
yeah.
that seems really challenging sometimes.
Yeah.
So I'll give a personal example
Mhm.
that I'm thrilled to be able to bring into the space, because usually I'm not the best at prioritizing. I mean, I also have the mind of what you're talking about, Johanna, about like, well, I should do this, or I should do this, or I'm doing this thing, but I need to do this. And so I have post-it notes all over my house. Like truly, like I have
Yeah.
them, and it's like, do this, do this, do this, do this. And it's like, and now I've consolidated them to my kitchen counter. But anyway, what I was going to say is one of my dogs is having some GI issues. And so we have
Mm.
decided to get her basically the equivalent of a green juice every morning, which I know I could be no less a bougie bitch. But the thing is that it's actually working. She's doing better. And
Right? Because
so,
cleaning up GI issues is its own
right, exactly,
adventure.
exactly. So this like green juice situation is a frozen. This is too much detail. The point is, I needed to go to the pet store to get more green juice for her, and I was fitting that in between two major meetings in my day. One of them, which I needed to drive to, it wasn't a virtual meeting. And I was like, okay, I am feeling so tired in my body. Like
Mhm.
like, and the second meeting was major. And so like I needed to have my whole heart there. And so I was like, I could do this. I mean, like technically, like logistically, I could make it work. I was like, but there was something inside of me that was like, no, you need to go home and you need to lay down on your bed for 15 minutes. And I'm really proud to say that I did that. And it helped a lot, because
Yes.
I don't have the green juice smoothie situation, but she has a backup. It's fine. I'm not a negligent parent. I'm going to get it tomorrow. It's fine. The point is that I had to prioritize my rest. And that rest was literally 13 minutes and 58 seconds, because what happened was I laid down, I set a timer for 15 minutes on my phone. And then I was like, oh shit, I have to do something else. There you go again. And so I got up and then I looked down at the timer when I got back in my bed, and 46 seconds had gone by. And so I was like, well, I'll never get that back, but it's fine. At least I have almost 14 minutes. And so that's my version of prioritization. But I guess what I would love to hear you talk about is, how do you identify that? Because I don't think that's easy. It's not usually easy for me at all. I mean, honestly, like it's actually very hard. And that moment I was able to tap into my body, but like can you talk about how it's hard for a lot of people, including myself, I guess, and you or whoever?
Well, I guess one thing I would ask you is after you took the rest, the 14 minutes, the 13 minutes and 56 seconds, how how did you feel?
So much better. It was night and day, honestly. And it was, I mean, I was still tired. Like it wasn't like
Mhm.
I just like, emerged a levitating Buddha, but like I was happier. Like I felt the difference in my next meeting.
Oh, interesting. So from the meeting where you were feeling stressed, right? You had all these things you had to do, and you were still thinking about the green juice probably
Of
before your
course.
first meeting. You came home, you prioritized rest, and you felt better for the second meeting.
Yeah. I mean, dramatic. Yeah. I guess it is more dramatic than I'm giving it credit for. Like it really was. I was like, oh, this is progress. This is helpful. My body is not. I mean, the thing is that I was so depleted when I took that rest that I was like, I think the truth is I didn't think I had really much of a choice. And of course, I did have a choice, but I'm
Yeah.
glad that my body was like, no, not happening.
So I life is about experimentation. But I think one of the things that's really important is, and again, this is a practice, but building awareness of what feels good and what doesn't. And what you did, right? Your body wouldn't give you a choice. You did not have a choice to go get the green smoothie. You were so tired. But one of the things that you can do to build this awareness is after you do something where you go get the green juice and you feel shitty and you feel chaotic and you go into this meeting going a million miles an hour and not rested and not settled. And how does that meeting go? Right? Reflecting on that. Or the other reflection is I prioritized going and resting, and I'm not going to not look at that and see how it made me feel and reflect on how my body felt and how my meeting went and what the rewards were of that. And I think that's part of it. Like I'll give you an example of the very beginning, like in 2015, it was an Ayurvedic course. So the self-care was steeped in Ayurveda, which is sister science to yoga. And sorry, this is my pepper. My dog, for those of you who don't. Um, so it was all about this, right? Just building awareness. Like you eat something and you see how it makes you feel in your body. You get 8 hours of sleep, and you see how it feels in your body. You drink a bunch of alcohol and you see how it feels in your body. There's no judgment, right? There's only curiosity, and it's all just feedback. It helps you lead a life where you can follow the energy, where you can avoid the things that don't make you feel good and lean into the things that you do. And I wasn't even looking to quit coffee. I drink coffee every morning, but depending on my day, right? I could drink coffee on a weekend, no problem. But depending on my day, and again, as I mentioned, I worked in a very high stress environment, and the media, the money side of media organizations. And depending on my day, my stomach was either in knots. If it was a stressful day, the coffee felt like it concentrated in my blood. I felt so stressed. It was like existential. And I'd never noticed that coffee made me feel this way. And I woke up I just noticed. That's all I did. No judgment. I drank my coffee every morning. One morning I woke up, I chose tea. I didn't even try. It was like my body wants tea. And I've literally never had another cup of coffee 9 years later. Now, that is not from, we always talk about like, well, we need to create new habits. It's about like making myself do it every day. And she was so amazing. Her name is Gracie Obuchowitz. She doesn't do this work. She does work with corporations now. She's amazing. She does small group communications, but it was
Johanna,
Gracie Obuchowitz. And
I've gone on a retreat with her.
no,
I have. She's in DC. I went on Gracie's
yes.
retreat. Yes, like 7 years ago. I'm not even kidding. I'm sorry. I didn't
Well,
mean to interrupt you, but like I know her. Yes.
okay. So here's what one thing she probably said to you too. Willpower is not a renewable resource. You cannot will your way to new habits. You cannot will your way to creating awareness, right? Like, or to do anything, like to make any changes in your life. You know, we think, well, I'm going to make my New Year's resolutions and I'm just going to make myself go to the gym every day. But like, change, if needed, doesn't necessarily be, you know, not everything needs to be changing all the time either, by the way, but is from paying attention, is from awareness. How does this make me feel? And so I think for you, you prioritized rest. And I think one thing that's really important for you to feel and reflect on is, what did this mean for me? How did this impact my work? How did this impact my meeting? How did I feel later? Because your body, you don't even necessarily have to tell your body what it needs or what it should do, because it's gonna naturally go towards the things that feel good if you're willing to open your eyes and see what feels good and what doesn't.
Go ahead, Katie. I know you want to respond. Please
Oh, I
do.
mean, I can't believe the synchronicities of this.
Me
But
neither.
that's wild. I mean, I haven't thought about Gracie in years. She's wonderful. But
She's
also,
amazing.
I will say that like what you're saying is so resonant, and I so appreciate this because I think, you know, I was focused on like just being excited that I just did the thing, that I listened to
Yeah,
my body, but which is good, but also like reflecting. I think the reflecting piece is sometimes hard for me to remember because
yeah,
it's something that is it's like, okay, cool, done. And the next, and the next, and the next, and the next. And it's like, no, 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 hold on a second. It's like maybe the next time I'm at a stop sign, I will be like, oh, that's right. Johanna mentioned that I should reflect. And so, no, but really, though, like that's a good reminder. So thank you for that.
yeah. I think that is a big key. And when we're busy, when we're squished, there's no reflection time. It's you're going from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next. You're never making choices or prioritizing because there's no time or space to do that. I mean, you have to prioritize. You have to take things off. You have to not get the green juice potentially at that moment.
Right. And I feel like it's so what I'm reminded of listening to you guys talk about this is like that the amount of resistance in our own bodies, in our lives, in society, in workplaces to this.
Yeah.
Like there is a reason it is not easy. There's a reason it's not instinctual. I feel like at one point it probably was. Like little kids know how to listen to their bodies, like, ow, that hurt.
Yeah.
And, it gets socialized out of us. But like, I'm just thinking about like how this is anti everything we are told about the
Yes.
American workforce, about
Yes.
being women in the world. Like, it's revolutionary to be like, my body told me I needed to take a break and I'm going to take it and you're going to wait, whatever it is.
And in the Slack culture, right? I mean, we're in these virtual environments where we're being pulled click, 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 click. And the reward that, I mean, and it's its own, and so is social media. It's like, I'm going to post something and I'm going to see who's responding to me. And there is something that is so, what is it, dopamine, whatever is
Yeah.
being activated, that the reward is somehow the faster you react, the faster you respond, the faster you get an answer. And actually, in some ways, I don't know, I would call like Slack an inefficiency tool. I mean, I personally think that it is so linear, and so is so much of our communication now, that rewards reaction over response, that we're actually not getting more done. And so even though we're busier than ever, I'm not sure we're more efficient, and we're certainly not more strategic or tactical. It's hard to make these decisions when you're working in those cultures. I mean, it's a huge reason I am a consultant now.
Well, and who was Slack made by and for? It's forcing all of us to use this form of communication that maybe works for some people in some environments in some ways, but I think Slack started in tech. Does it work in a
Yes.
remote newsroom? I don't know.
But even in tech, I mean, to
Mm.
me, create norms for when it works,
Yeah.
but don't rely on it for everything, because it makes you crazy.
I mean, honestly, this is so resonant for me, but also this actually can be very much linked to texting. Like I have text anxiety. I have to be honest. I am known by some of my friends. Some of my friends are really cool about it, but some of my friends are kind of annoyed by the fact that sometimes it takes me a week to respond. I treat texting sometimes, unless it's an emergency, like an email. I'm like, I am going to keep that unread for a while. The house isn't burning down. I don't have the energetic capability. And I love what you just said about how it's a linear way of communicating
Yeah.
and that it's reactive, but not strategic. And it's like, it's not wait, what was it? It's reactive, but not like response.
You react rather than respond.
Yes, exactly. And it's like, it's overload for me sometimes. Like, I mean, not
Yes.
sometimes, like a lot of times. And like,
Yeah.
I mean, I love all of you ladies that are listening that I'm on all your text threads, but sometimes it takes me a minute. And it's to the point where now some of my friends are like, you know what? You don't have to respond. Don't worry. They know that it gives me anxiety. And so it's
Yeah.
just, but that's not always allowable in the corporate space. So it's really hard.
It is really hard. I like what you're saying though. I mean, there's an awareness here, right? Of what stresses you out. Again, we live in a world, right? A world that we can't always control. We can control ourselves. We can control how we want to handle something. There are times it may be busier, and then we know, okay, this is going to be a really busy day, and it's going to be hard. But so what I'm going to do for myself later is, or tomorrow, I'm going to have a calm day, or, I'm going to take meetings off my calendar, whatever it is, right? That we prioritize ourselves at some point, understanding what we're going through, what we're dealing with. But I mean, texting, slacking is stressful to you. It's a lot of stimulation. It's a lot of, inputting information. And that's something to just be aware of, that when you have more of that in your life, and then start experimenting. Are there antidotes? Are there things that can lessen? Are there small steps you can take to make it less overwhelming? Prioritizing and waiting a week to respond to something that's not life-threatening sounds like a really good choice. That's a choice. And you can inform your friends about that. You have. So that to me, and I think maybe what you need to do is reflect on that and see how that makes you feel, because you're doing it.
Okay. Thank you so much for that. For making hand movements at each other. Oh, I just love that. And I mean, so not to be dark,
Yeah.
however, like what you're describing, these things, these conversations, this conversation we're having, I feel like to some people in my life, they will hear these things and say, like, what a luxury that is. And it's
It's true.
not, do you know what I mean? And I feel
Yes.
like, what if it wasn't a luxury? What if it was vital? And what is the cost of not doing some of these things?
Yeah. I, I mean, I totally agree. I think it is a luxury. I think it's a privilege, right? I work at a desk job. I work from home. I have a bed literally right here. I take naps. I take my 15-minute naps too. Most days I just lie down, like, especially if I know I have a meeting in 30 minutes, I will set my timer for 20. And so, yeah, that is a luxury. That is a privilege. And it shouldn't be. It should be accessible to all. And it's not. And it is really, I think, I I don't know what the answer is there. I do know that even even at our busiest, that there's always sitting at a red light. And there is an opportunity to see friends and be bolstered by your community, right? That, like, things can still be prioritized. Awareness is available to all of us. We may not have the same flexibility in the time and space that we can create for ourselves. But again, I'm saying this as someone who is sitting next to my bed and works from home and now almost never uses Slack. Now that's a choice. That's a choice that I made, right? I mean, when I, did my contract for my, for Slack, it was like, I will respond within 3 hours. And if it's after 3 p.m., it'll be by the next day by noon, right? So like I put that in my contract because I was like, I'm not doing Slack anymore. But that's a privilege that I built in. So I don't know. This is hard. I would love this to be available for everyone. Everyone deserves this. Everyone.
Yes. And I feel like it was like so my question is also around, I mean, thank you for that. That is very true. And it was also a question around like the people who are listening who think like that's a luxury I can't afford. Your body is like, do you want to take I have a colleague right now who is out for 2 weeks with pneumonia
Yeah.
in her early 40s.
Yeah.
So you can either take the 2 weeks and go on a yoga retreat and go chill out and go get massages, or you can be hospitalized and be out for 2 weeks because now you have pneumonia.
Well, so yes. Okay. So this is when my children were young. I mean, I call this the martyr syndrome, right? That like the world cannot operate without me. I need to be giving 120% because otherwise the world is going to fall apart. I mean, I've been there. When I'm too busy, I act like that. I still act like that. Even with all of my awareness, I'm like, no, I have to make the muffins for everyone this week because, they're not going to have lunch. I mean, I do this stuff too. So like, I get it. But the thing is that we're better for ourselves and we're better for an environment when we have taken care of ourselves. And I had this yoga instructor. I love her so much. She, right after COVID started and I was doing yoga from home, she always does like a little talk and she was talking about COVID and like how hard it is, right? Like we don't even realize how hard this is, that the whole world has shut down. And I think what's really important is that you do the work to deal with your shit, because if you don't deal with your shit, it's someone else's problem. And she didn't say it in a way that was judgmental. She said it in a way that was so right on. And that is the truth. Because when I act like a martyr, I am really not fun to be around. I don't like myself. My family thinks I'm annoying. Like why that is something where I am not dealing with something, right? And I don't know what it is, but the world, I don't need to be giving 120% all the time. I am actually more of a contributor when I have taken care of myself, when I know what's going on in myself and I can resolve it on my own. Or calling a friend or going to, go out and walk, whatever it is. It's like I have dealt with my shit, so it's not someone else's problem. And I do think when you're so busy and and I'm not saying this person, I'm not saying, but like for me, I can see when people feel like they can't take their pedal, like their foot off the gas for even a second. That's an alarm system. That's an alarm system that someone needs to slow down and someone needs to examine themselves, like examine what's going on. And journaling, just sitting. Sometimes I just sit and I just touch my heart and I see what's happening there. Or sometimes I feel like I don't have a voice or something. I like touch here, touch my throat, or sometimes my third eye, my intuition center, if it feels bruised, right? So it's like, I just sit and, and touch my body. And I sometimes just give myself a hug, because if we can witness ourselves and we can see like, wow, you've been doing a lot. We can say that to ourselves. We don't need someone else to tell us. We don't need to keep going 100 miles an hour so that someone else can recognize our greatness. We can recognize our greatness. We can give ourselves a hug. Or we can say to someone, I need a compliment. I've been working really hard and I need you to see it. And then I'll let it go.
Every single thing that you just said needs to be like on a poster on the wall. Like this is so helpful. It really is. It's so helpful because it's like, I mean, Karen, what you said about, someone that that's out for 2 weeks with
Yeah.
pneumonia, like this is the kind of stuff that like I used to work for a period of time in the tech industry, and mental health leave was covered by my employer.
Mhm.
And I remember going there. This was in the middle of COVID, and multiple people were just not available for meetings. And I was like, I don't understand what's happening. And all of them, I would say, like maybe over the course of a couple months, it was like 4 to 6 people on my immediate team were going out for months long mental health leave for burnout. And so and the thing is that this was an employer that paid for that kind of leave. So like
Yeah.
I'm not saying that that's a crutch, but it's like that is the level of severity and
Yeah.
seriousness this is. Like this is not like, I mean, I want to fight for the idea that this is not a luxury, that this is like, something that we all have to do, or like our bodies are going to revolt against us. But I think one thing that I would love to touch back on, Johanna, what you said a while ago is around curiosity. Like a
Mhm.
curiosity for ourselves is just such a beautiful framing
Mhm.
for if we're feeling overwhelmed, if we're feeling like we can't stop, if we can't have that red light moment or like touch our bodies and take a deep breath. Having the curiosity versus judgment, because I mean, everyone who listened to the last episode, I talked about my panic attacks and I have judgment around those panic attacks.
Mhm.
And I I'm just introducing the concept of being curious about something.
Mhm.
Um, it's just such a warm and soft and welcoming way to talk to yourself. Can you talk a little bit more about how to
Mhm.
strengthen that curiosity, or like how, like some examples of how that could show up in someone's life? Because I think it's really powerful.
Yeah, this is a real practice. I mean, I'm someone who can be very judgmental about myself. I mean, I spent my entire like childhood and probably my teenage years and into my college years just being so hard on myself, and probably my 20s too. I mean, this is something that I've really been trying to practice. And I think that for for me, one thing that can help, well, I mean, just reminding myself, this is just, I'm just a human. I'm just making my way through a world. There are a lot of things I haven't done, even at 48 years old, almost 49 years old, that I haven't done yet. And so I'm allowed to make my way through it the best I can, right? So like just acknowledging that it's I think our first rodeo for all of us, right? Like a lifetime. I mean, maybe we come back, but like I don't remember the last however many lifetimes I've had if that's the way the system works. But like this is my first rodeo. How humbling, how exciting, how scary, how like all the human things. So we're all just trying to make our way. I think that we're in a very judgmental moment in history right now. I think there's a lot of there's just we're in an environment where, I think partly like people put themselves out there on social media. It just creates a lot of judgment. It creates, and so I definitely think that in some ways my curiosity, I think about it as a choice, and it's a choice in my bubble, right? Because externally, I'm judgmental internally, I can be judgmental externally too, right? But sometimes when I feel that, it's almost, I actually can feel it in my body. It's like this gigantic eyeball. And it is, I can feel its sharpness. There's just like a judgment, and it's mostly to myself. And what I do is I put sunglasses on that eyeball. And I'm like, you know what? Okay, I see you, eyeball. I see you getting that huge gaze on all the things that like I'm doing, or that I'm lazy, or I'm not doing enough. I mean, that's a big part, right? Or that like and so okay, let's just, I mean, I can't get rid of it, but I can dim its, I don't know, its gaze. And so for me, again, it goes back to how do I feel it? I can actually feel the judgment in my body now, and it feels like a gigantic eyeball. That's the only way that I can describe it. And so, but let me just say, judgment at a lighter level, at a sunglasses level, is discernment too, right? Like none of these things are bad. Like we can be judgmental, and that's a natural part of who we are. Like most of the things that we feel are very human. And a lot of times these things are constructed to make us safe, right? And so we can't get mad at those things. Can't get mad when I don't approach it with curiosity. Instead, I'm approaching it with judgment. But I can be aware of it, and I can put sunglasses on my judgment and just say, nope, I'm not doing that today. I don't, that's not, and like, what else is going on? Like, am I busy? Am I too busy? Am I feeling stressed? Like that makes all of that worse, right? When I have space, I'm much more curious than when I'm busy and stressed, then I'm judgmental. So I think approaching curiosity is a practice. And I think really the opposite of it is judgment. And I think that we can't always completely prevent that, but we can know when we're doing that. And I talk to my big hairy eyeball. I mean, I have another little character, and it's my urgency troll. And that's the reaction rather than response. And I have to literally, he wears these huge clogs and he stomps around and tells me to hurry up. And I can't get rid of him, right? And he makes sure that I'm like hitting my deadlines on time. So I just put felt on the bottom of his clogs so that he's a little quieter. And I just say, urgency troll, I hear you. I know you're worried we're going to be late, but it's going to be okay. So it's like I have these like characters in my life, but I love them all, right? Like I am a human and I have a lot of things that make up my humanity. And it's okay because this is my first rodeo. So I think that for me, I've just tried to like love and embrace all the aspects of who I am. And and again, it is a journey. I'm not always there. Does that make any sense?
Maybe I don't know if you.
I'm just speechless. This is so the I mean, yes, it makes sense. It makes beyond sense. It's like your characters are, I mean, it's just amazing that you have identified exactly what they look like. The eyeball with the sunglasses over it is an amazing visual. The urgency troll with the felt on the bottom of its shoes is an incredible visual, and it's so helpful to externalize those things. I think that is also like a Jedi trick that therapists have told me over the years, but I forget. And like it's so
Oh
great to be
yeah.
reminded. And I think it's amazing how when you're describing those things, they seem so playful to me because I'm
Yeah.
not the person who created them. And then in my mind, if I was to create them, like I don't even know what they would look like. They would be like some scary shit, like Game of
No, they
Thrones stuff.
wouldn't necessarily. You
But
don't know.
you're right.
You
And
should
that's the
sit down
thing.
and think about them.
Exactly. And I think that's the thing is I haven't been curious about them. And so like it would be much better for me to be curious and like this is actually in the recesses of my mind bringing forward this like kind of I don't know if you're this is a weird tangent but like if you remember the very first the very first Jurassic Park, when
Yeah.
the guy who plays Newman goes into the woods and he happens upon this teeny tiny
Yes.
dinosaur and he's like, "Oh, how cute." And then the dinosaur has these big sides to him and he like flails
Oh,
open and then he kills him
Yes.
really quickly. So I'm
Yes.
pretty sure that's what mine looked like a
Oh
long
my
time ago,
God.
but also like I can make that more playful and I just think that's like no, you're totally right. It's like it's really helpful to hear other people's characters because then that can inform and give permission to maybe the ones in my mind. So, Karen, please take it away.
oh no. Okay. Well, I mean, I have a lot of reactions. I just wanted to, I could see you reacting and I was like, oh my gosh, I love this. Okay. Oh, I don't, there was something I was gonna, oh, okay. I know what it was. So also I had a conversation with a friend this weekend about exactly like you're talking about judgment. And we all judge ourselves. And I have a group of friends I love deeply who are deeply fucking judgmental people.
Mhm.
They just are, right? Like a lot of them are gay men. I feel like they're professionally judgmental. There's
Yep.
some class they all go to where they learn to do it. Like, fine, good for you. And, you know, I've known these people a very long time, and they're especially judgmental about relationships. A lot of them have been in their relationships a long time. And so the notion that I haven't been in a relationship for 25 years, like, fascinates them, and they want to talk about it and all these things. And my friend was just like, you know, that's doing something for them. Like this, like, these conversations where like you feel like you're like on the stand,
Oh,
and it's
yeah.
like a tribunal, right? Of like, yeah, just where I feel like I'm at a trial on the stand. And I just, like, I don't know if you could speak to that, but I love that idea that, like, right. Like, I've struggled with this for so long because they're so judgmental, and it always happens when we're drinking. And then I just give in to this sense of like, of course I owe you an explanation for all of these things. That's
Oh,
absolutely right.
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know.
Whoa.
It
I'm so
strikes
glad
you.
you brought that up. I go back to, how does being with them make you feel?
Mm, yeah.
That's so hard. That's
It
so
is so hard.
hard.
And here's
Because then you have to
the
look
thing.
at your
It's not just,
shit.
no, I know,
Oh.
but it's not just there, right? It's like you could have a different feeling when you're in the environment and you feel differently than you do later, than you
Mhm.
do before the next time you're supposed to see them, or when you're setting up seeing them. How do each of those moments make you feel? Because here's the thing about judgment. As I was saying, judgment is also discernment. And spending, our environment is important, right? I mean, we are who we are, we can choose, but part of that is creating an environment that feels sustainable for us, that feels nurturing for us in whatever way, or fun, or joyful, or um, exciting. Like, no judgment on whatever people want out of their lives, whatever gives them energy. And I do think that this is a big thing. In coaching, we talk about this a lot. When I did my coaching certification, you follow the energy. And if something gives you energy, and sometimes something can give you energy in the moment, right? Like if I drink a bunch and I'm the life of the party, but then the next day I feel pretty bad. And it's like, well, maybe I don't want to, that doesn't actually, in the end, give me a whole lot of energy, right? So, but following the energy and seeing, where is there energy, and when and where are you feeling it? Or is there dread? Or is there, and I think that is, to me, the best way to discern a life, carving out the life that you want to see, carving out the feelings you want to be with. And it doesn't have to be all or nothing, right? It can be, you know what? I'm going to see these friends when I feel this, but right now I'm too busy. I feel squished right now, and it's going to bring me to my knees if I see them right now. But there could be other times when you feel effervescent and you feel you've got a lot of energy, and like that's the perfect thing for you to do. So it's about finding the things that you need in that moment. I mean, I had a coach, she's the one that helped me with the work of finding the characters, and she was a screenwriter, and so she brought so much creativity. I've never had more fun than when I created my characters, of my, she calls it the council, like all of the things that make up me. But she, oh gosh, what was I saying? I was just saying something about,
Oh,
That
coach
you
the
had so much
characters.
fun with her, and that you were talking to her. She was a
right
screenwriter, and like when you
before
were
that, she would talk about, oh gosh, it was something about discernment. Oh well. Anyway, so it is about she would basically, what she does every single morning. I do not do this because I'm not this disciplined. She sits down to meditate, and all she does is ask, what do you need today? She doesn't focus on her breathing. She doesn't do anything. She just sits on her bolster, and she sits there, and she gives herself like a little bit of space, and she says, what do I need today? And she says the answer just comes to her. It's sometimes it takes longer to hear it, but she literally has a relationship with her in terms of what does she need. And I think with your friends, it's like, what do you need?
I mean, what I need is 4 more hours of this conversation because this is like, I mean, for real though, like my blood pressure has lowered in the last 60 minutes and I feel so calm. I really do. I mean, I just so
Sure.
appreciate this. I know we're at time, but wow. Where can people find you, Johanna? Like, where can
Oh,
people find if they're like, who is this sage, like
I doubt it,
amazing
but
human? I mean, yes, please.
so I have a website. My consulting group is called, well, group, it's me, is Beech Strategies. It's like the beech tree, which is the queen of the forest, by the way, the
Ooh.
beech tree. And so it's BEECH strategies.com is my website. And I just want to leave on one note, which is there is nowhere we need to be in this moment. And life is just practice. And so I don't want anyone to come out of this conversation feeling like somehow they're doing it wrong. Right? It's about sitting down and creating space for yourself. And that's a practice. Just giving yourself a little bit of that space.
Ah, Johanna, thank you so much for being here. I'm
This is
just gonna
so
leave people
fun.
with that. Oh my gosh. I knew this was gonna be great. Even in the middle of like a wild day, like you said, oh my God, with the squirrels, but it's just like, yeah, it's one of those things. I always feel smarter. I tell you this all the time, both of you, I always feel smarter after I talk to you. I always feel calmer. It's like, yeah, I really needed this. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you both so much for having me. This was so fun. And it was wonderful to see you both.
This was so much fun. Thank you. Thank you. We'll see everybody next week.